All right, great.
Now we're official.
It does feel official. Well, hi everyone. My name is Margaret Tamulonis, and I'm part of the NEMA board, and you'll be meeting quite a few of us here today. Welcome to be in the room when it happens. This informal session conversation about the NEMA board and what it's like to be a NEMA board member. So you have some information as you think about the possibilities of the NEMA board. Before we get started with introductions and the inevitable icebreaker, I'm hoping we can do a land acknowledgement. So Scarlett, thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. NEMA recognizes that our organization and those of our members were founded within a colonizing society, which continues the exclusion and erasures of many Indigenous peoples throughout New England and beyond. I'm going to drop the Indigenous peoples land map into the chat here, and you can find the lands where you're zooming in from or where your museum might be located. And I'll turn it back to you, Margaret. Thanks.
Thank you so much. So we were thinking we would start with introductions and then have some of our board members talk a little bit about why we serve on the board. And then Rainey, our board president, will share some information about serving on the board. And then we're going to try and leave some good room for questions and answers. And I have to say, I'm so pleased to see so many of my fellow board members on this session. So thank you so much. This is great. The icebreaker question is so please introduce yourself briefly and then answer this question if you can. Share something that people would not necessarily know about you, not the usual standard, intro. I'll be good and get it started and then call on people just to leave it a little bit easier. I hope that might work. So I'm Margaret Tamulonis. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the manager of collections and exhibitions here at the Fleming Museum up in Burlington, Vermont. And I'm so glad to see everybody here. And something that people might not necessarily know about me is I actually grew up in the theater world in New York City because my mom's an actress and she's retired now, but it was a really weird way to be in the arts world. And I think it explains why I like working with really like collections where I'm in storage and it's a little quieter. But anyway, that's it. So following my screen, I'm going to pass it on to Rainey.
Awesome. I'm Rainey Bench. I'm the current president of NEMA's board, and I'm also the director for the Mount Desert Island Historical Society in Mount Desert, Maine. And something you might not know about me, you heard I was just out installing sea level rise artwork, and now I feel like I have ticks crawling all over me. So if I act weird, I think that there's a tick on me. So you may not know that about me. The other thing is that I will try to maintain my professionalism on this Zoom call, but I curse like a sailor. It's my favorite thing.
Thank you. So that brings us to Cynthia Robinson.
Oh, I'm fucking glad to be here. I'm Cynthia Robinson. I'm the director of the Tufts Museum Studies program. I train my students well. And what you might not know about me, in addition to having a long museum career, I was also a DJ on the radio. I had a 3-hour folk music, traditional music, and world music show on a Worcester radio station for about 4 years.
Cool. All right, Chuck.
Hi, everyone. Chuck Clark. I'm also on the NEMA board. I am the executive director at Castle in the Clouds, which is a historic estate in central New Hampshire. And something that people don't know about me, I like to bake homemade bread.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that's great. Matt.
Hi, everybody. Matt Kirkman here, calling in from Salem, Massachusetts. I'm the one of the vice presidents of the NEMA board. There are many. There are a few, I should say. Let's see. I do independent. I'm an independent museum professional, and I do interpretive master planning and exhibition development and design. And I teach in Cynthia's museum studies department at Tufts. I teach exhibition planning. And something you might not know about me, Christine, this will be of interest to you. I used to do competitive orienteering. And
wow.
was actually on a committee to move orienteering to become an Olympic sport.
Wow.
Very cool. Allison? I think you're muted, sorry.
You
I
unmuted.
think
but
it's
we
no,
can't
I
hear
think
you.
it's the mic.
Oh, sorry. Not yet.
We could come back around too.
Yeah, sorry. I will come back. Haha. I'm gonna hop over to Brenda, please.
Hi, everybody. I'm Brenda Moniapin. I work at the Discovery Museum, the Children's Museum in Acton, Massachusetts, where I'm the senior director of the museum experience. I was born and raised on Guam, which is a little island in the Pacific, a U.S. territory, and currently experiencing a super typhoon.
Yeah, you must be very nervous.
Yeah, I've got a lot of friends who were there.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh.
Danica?
Hi, everyone. Danica Thurston. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the executive director of the Lynn Museum and Lynn Arts in downtown Lynn, Massachusetts. I am a clerk on the NEMA board, and I also sit on the nominating committee. A fun fact that I don't think a lot of people know about me, I don't think I share this very often, is that I'm a dual citizen. So I'm a citizen here in the US, and then I'm a citizen of the Bahamas. That's where my dad's from. He moved here when my parents decided to get married, and then he moved back when they got divorced, and that's where he lives currently. So it's not as exciting as one would think because my dad's the oldest of 10. So it's like trips down there is like seeing lots of cousins and aunts and uncles. Very little time on the beach, but I do make that a priority.
That's great. All right. Heather?
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. Heather Riggs, she, her. I'm Director of Administration here at NEMA. And one probably unknown fact that I don't share occasionally is that I was born and raised in Utah, but there is a street in Gloucester, Massachusetts, named after one of my ancestors, who was the first alderman and teacher up there. So there's actually official Riggs house with a plaque on it.
Sweet.
So that's cool.
Awesome. Okay, going around the screen. Stacy.
Hi there. I'm Stacey Fraser. I'm the assistant curator at the Scottish Rite Masonic Museum and Library in Lexington, Massachusetts. And I've been a NEMA member for a very long time, since I joined in grad school, basically, when I was working at Strawberry Bank. I was in the Museum Studies program at UNH. And so I've worked in a couple of museums I've worked in museums in a couple different states, in Massachusetts and New Hampshire. And one thing that's kind of fun is I got married summer of 2021 on a 150-year-old sailing schooner out of Camden, Maine,
Nice.
National Historic Landmark. So the museums and history don't go away even on the weekends. It's really exciting to get married on a mobile ship.
That's awesome. Okay. Jessica?
Hi, I'm Jessica Fontaine. I'm the director at Storrowton Village Museum in West Springfield, Massachusetts. It's on the fairgrounds of the Biggie, the Eastern States Exposition. So my fun fact used to be, before I worked at Storrowton Village, that I work at a museum where I dress in costume, and now it's just a normal thing because I volunteered here for 20 years before I took the job as the director. So now my fun fact, which is equally fun, is that I am an official Groundhog Day ambassador. I have a plaque in everything because Groundhog Day is my favorite holiday, and I am an ambassador for the legend that is Groundhog Day.
That's great. Let's see, Christine.
Well, that's hard to follow. I grew up in Underhill Center, Vermont, which is right under Mount Mansfield in Vermont. Yep. And I always say it's very Hobbit-like. It's called Underhill. It's on the other side of Stowe, and it's very small to this day. Still only a few thousand residents. Went to art school and got into museums in 2000, and I worked in museums in Connecticut since 2000. Now I'm transitioning into becoming an independent museum professional. So I'm working with some historic sites. I also teach sewing. And another fun fact is I I also love to garden and do stuff around the house. And I have 3 cats who I love.
And let's see, Scarlett, are you able to?
Yes.
say
Hello,
hi?
everybody. Scarlett Hoey, she, her pronouns, Director of Membership Experience at NEMA. Trying to think that everybody's just so interesting, and I'm like, a little bit stumped. I guess, I feel like some folks will know this maybe, but I have a very deep love of Scottish Terriers. So all things Scotty dogs, they're my favorite. I grew up with a Scotty, and I'm a very big dog person, and I'm excited to say that my 10-month-old daughter is starting to say the word dog. So it is very exciting.
Excellent. That's wonderful. And I'm sorry I don't see a name, but I know there's somebody who called in with the 203.
That might be Allison's voice.
Oh, okay, sorry. Then it's you.
That's
Hi.
me.
All right. Okay, excellent.
Can you hear me okay? It's
So-
Allison.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm having some trouble with my computer, but I'm glad the phone's working. I'm Allison. I'm the Deputy Director and Director of Engagement at the Concord Museum. I'm on the NEMA board and co-chair of the Executive Director Search Committee for NEMA. That's where I've been helping out. My fun fact, Jessica, you said you have a plaque for something, and I was racking my head like, do I have a plaque for anything? And I do, because I got a hole-in-one once. I'm a big golfer. My whole family golfs.
Nice.
That's what my plaque is of.
Awesome. Well, I think, is that everyone? Have I missed anyone? Please speak up, because sometimes that happens to me and I'm always like, wait, I have something to say. Okay, cool. Thank you all for those lovely introductions. I really appreciate it. I was hoping that a few of us who are board members could talk briefly a little bit about why we serve on the board. And I have a couple of people who had volunteered to do that. So I'm just gonna call on you if that's okay, just to keep it brief. So I'm gonna start with Danica. Sorry.
So hi again. I've been on the NEMA board for 2 years. My second year. I think this is my second year.
Yeah, we started together.
We're friends. But I will be frank that I was originally approached to consider the opportunity, but it just wasn't the right time for me. I was still really interested, but given my work schedule, it just wasn't the right time. And I was able to come back the next year and express my interest and apply. And it's been a wonderful process. I think for me, especially being now an ED, first time ED, I've presented at NEMA previously. I've been a member of NEMA for a while, and so I just felt like it was a really awesome opportunity to sort of see what happens at the top behind closed doors. And it's an awesome board. It's a very transparent board. I was really impressed with a lot of the DEI work that a lot of you saw at the last conference that we debuted with our new mission statement and our values. And it's just really encouraging to see a regional organization really taking the time to do the work and put in the work to really move ourselves forward and think about the future, not only as an organization, but for all of the museums and folks that are part of our network. So I was really impressed with that. I'm excited to be part of that work now as a board member. And so it's just been a really amazing process, and I've learned a lot of things. And the board, they're made up of very special people. So I'm really excited about being here and continuing to serve.
Thank you. And then I have Rainey.
Yeah, I joined the NEMA board, I think in 2019. This is my 4th year. And I had been a NEMA member and spoken at conferences, and just really appreciated like a larger lens than my state organization, but a smaller lens than AAM or even AISLH, and found that as like my professional development needs, and as they changed, as my growth and my career changed, NEMA was always the most responsive and always right there helping. I've used NEMA 911 as a service in my career and have been so grateful for that really, really innovative program that I think is just, it's representative of how responsive NEMA wants to be to the field and to what's happening. And the work that we've just done that Danica referenced with the DEA IJ work, I think is another amazing example of how tightly NEMA tries to tie our work and our goals and our values to the changing nature of the field. And so I'm proud to be affiliated with an organization that's thoughtful and nimble and is not so bogged down in like policy or bureaucratic process or even in our own identity, that we can't really be willing to change on a dime based on what's needed. And so I have a lot of excitement for the organization for those reasons. And then it's like fun. I live here on an island in the middle of nowhere, Maine, and it can be a really isolating experience for me. And so as a museum professional, this opportunity to tap into my peers in a way that I wouldn't based on my region, like my close geographic region, I just value it so much.
Thank you. Cynthia, something you could share?
So I could just say ditto, but I will add that it really feeds my need for a community. I don't work in a museum anymore, but I consider myself a museum professional. So being able to work outside of academia and away from graduate students who I have a certain kind of proscribed relationship with until they graduate, it's really nice to be with peers, but peers who are people in the museum field who have different backgrounds than I do, who sometimes think differently than I do, who are different ages. And so it feeds my need for connection and also feeds back into my work and affects it very positively.
Thank you. Did any of our other board members want to say something real quick? I think we do have a minute or two. Matt?
I would say very similar things, quite honestly. As an independent museum professional, it brings me connection, gives me direct contact with museum people that are not necessarily my clients, which is also really important to me. So, these are all very selfish reasons, but I also like the idea that I'm giving something to the industry more, more as a whole, giving something to our New England museum community, serving our New England museum community in ways that are, not billable.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Rainey, if it's okay with you, if you want to present the slides to talk a little bit about board service and what we do as a board, that would be great.
Yeah, so thank you. This might take a second while it goes to play. There we go. And I want to just thank Brenda and Cynthia for pulling this presentation together. I'm just blatantly stealing it. So, so being on the board of NEMA involves 3-year term of service with the opportunity to renew up to 3 times. So for a total of 9 years, if you so choose. We have several standing committees that all board members are expected to serve on one or more of, which include the executive committee, which are the elected officers, governance and ethics, which is currently being chaired by Cynthia, the nominating committee, which is currently being chaired by by Margaret.
By me.
Confusing you with membership for a minute. By Margaret here, of course. Audit and finance, which is our treasurer, Cynthia Walker. And then we also have an advocacy committee, which is an ad hoc committee where we design that so we have representatives from each state, whether they're on the board or they're at-large members, so we can have a really good sense of what's happening in each state and what kinds of issues NEMA might want to be aware of or become more involved with, which is being chaired by Sue Goganian. We have a membership committee that is just sort of ramping up that Chris Newell chairs. And then a development committee that hasn't, it's a goal, it's more aspirational than it is functional right now. But we hope to be working a little bit more on stabilizing NEMA's finances as we grow as an organization. So hopefully that committee will be up and running. We have 4 Zoom board meetings a year and 1 board meeting in person, so a total of 5. And we generally try to meet in December, March, June, and September. Those are all virtual meetings. And then in November, we have our annual meeting at the conference. And then the committees meet outside of those meetings as needed. Occasionally, each committee meets on a slightly different schedule. We generally would say that you probably would expect to give about 5 hours of work toward board responsibilities each month, depending on where the board meetings fall and the committee work that you're involved in. We do sometimes have a retreat, no more than one a year. This will be related usually to strategic planning or for organizational or institutional sort of board visioning. We haven't had one for a little while, so we maybe do after we hire a new executive director. It would make sense to probably bring the organization together for something like this. So you could anticipate that that would be part of it. And then obviously your participation in NEMA activities and events and things that we do is obviously critical to being a successful board meeting. And so what a big part of that is participation in the annual conference, making sure that people have a chance to, if you don't want to lead a session, there's lots and lots of volunteer opportunities for being an ambassador, doing different kinds of conference volunteer work, both at the conference and leading up to it in advance. We are working on what it means for financial expectations at NEMA. Right now, we do ask that each individual board member can maintain a membership in NEMA, and that your organization, if you're part of one, also is a member of NEMA. And then we're trying to sort of figure out and articulate what a personal financial commitment to NEMA might mean, because we recognize that there are really important and significant ways that people contribute apart from financially. And so we want to be able to understand that financial contribution to the organization is not the only measurement for support and contributions. So those are being articulated as we grow as an organization. We do expect our board members to have a certain degree of volunteering and giving your time and your expertise and your perspective. So as I mentioned, there's a lot of opportunities to assist with the annual conference, sharing expertise with the NEMA community. There's lots of ways to do that through through the programming and the education outreach, through the PAG groups, through advocacy, lots of different ways that the staff will every once in a while do a sort of a call to action from the board if they need specific support, or if they need something specific that they're that they want more information for, writing for the newsletter, all sorts of different ways to share your expertise. Enlist your organization in NEMA's efforts. So making sure that you're a really good ambassador for NEMA, and that your organization and your peers know what you're doing, and that there are things that NEMA provides that you might be able to find helpful or assistance with. Partner with NEMA staff on fundraising goals and development efforts. This is, so as I said, sort of evolving as we try to figure out what this looks like for a membership organization. And fundraising and development does not necessarily mean that you're going out and asking, or that you're going and writing grants. There are 7 different levels of fundraising in the fundraising cycle. And so it's all everywhere from thanking people to being an ambassador to doing direct asking. So we have some expectations for board involvement on those levels, but that's still being articulated. Participating in state or national advocacy efforts. This is a really key and very successful role that NEMA has taken on. In addition to AAM's national role, NEMA has done a lot of support for the states, including here in Maine, launching our state advocacy day and being a really important partner for that continuing effort. And I know they've done the same in other states as well, and would like to continue to expand NEMA's voice and back of house supporting role in advocacy, which is developing those messages and those tools, and then helping establish training things. And so we do hope that board members will be involved with advocacy. And then participating and supporting the board and the staff in our DEAIJ learning. We did an 18-month long series of a year's long worth of classes, and then a series of really deep dives into our values and our mission, and what we would like to see for NEMA's goals in the future. Board members who come on to the board, there is an expectation that you will go through some of those learning materials that we have developed and that we've all benefited from, so that you can be on the same sort of platform and the same understanding as the rest of the board for why we do this work and why it matters so much to us. And you have the same foundational training that the rest of the board does. So there's a little bit of extra work as a new board member coming on for that. We do have an application process. So in trying to make the process equitable and accessible to as many different types of museum professionals or museum support people as possible, the application process, we try to keep it as open and welcoming as we can. So the applications are available. I didn't put a date on here yet. I think that they're, Heather, do you know, or Margaret, do we have a date on when we have those ready?
It's actually available.
They're up.
It's June 16th is the deadline.
Thank you. Due June 16th. Great. So the application is available on the website, or we could send it to you, and then you can fill that out, and it's due by June. There's some short answer questions that just give us some information about you and your background and your history and your interest in NEMA. Love to see your resume and professional references. And as part of our values and our growth, we are seeking to deliberately diversify the board in terms of composition by race, gender, ethnicity, age, New England region, and your role in the museum. We definitely don't just want executive directors. We want people at all levels of museum experience and professionalism. And so we believe that there's a lot that people have to offer to this organization that is not just related to specific positions within a museum. So I'm going to stop screen sharing. That was just a super quick overview, but I'm happy to take any questions or comments or additions from board members and questions from anybody else.
Yeah, I have a question. I'm kind of here for two purposes. One is I am interested in applying, but I'm also working on board development with the institutions that I work with. And I was wondering about the, are you as a board actually looking at kind of places to fill based on background? Like, I know that's hard to say, oh yes, we need, you know, a white woman from Waterbury, Connecticut. But I've been trying to encourage my board to think about skill levels. Like, is there a skill that's lacking on your board or something? Like, I wanted to encourage my board. What about having an artist on the board? Wouldn't that be really cool? So I'm just wondering if the board has talked about, oh, what kind of skills do you see, or types of backgrounds that you want to see more of?
Margaret, do you want to take a stab at it first at head of the nominating committee, and then I can, if you want, I can help. Or
Yeah, sure. And please, yes, other board members chime in. I mean, we have been pretty focused on geographic area because we want to make sure we have all of the Northeast New England area represented. But, you know, certainly some of those skill areas are ones that we've started to have conversations about, but we need to have more conversations like that.
yeah, I think, the diversity piece is something that we are very cognizant of. We do not have a representation on the board that is directly representational of the region that we serve. And so being aware of that, being aware of the fact that NEMA is a membership organization, not a museum, but its board is primarily populated by museum professionals or, in Cynthia and Matt's case, museum support professionals. And so we may want to consider looking outside of the direct museum field and look at other membership organizations or different structures for how an organization like NEMA could benefit from learning, not just from museum leaders. So we are, as you know, hiring an executive director. And so some of these conversations are deliberately paused while we go through the process of getting new leadership that will then really take all of the work that we've done over that past 18 months with the DEAJ policies and practices and values that we've just articulated, and really help lead us into living those values and what that looks like for the organization and also for the board.
Yeah, I just want to say I've seen the strategic plan, and the statements are really great about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I've been looking at strategic plans too. I'm a dork about those as well. And I've been encouraging some of the groups that I work with to think strategically And for me, it's really great to have such a wonderful guiding document. So congrats on that. It's really great.
Thank you.
I don't have a question because all of my questions got answered, and I had a similar question to Christine, which was more about, what were those other specific skill sets you were looking for? Because I noticed in one of the emails, it did acknowledge human resources, and that's I actually, for the Eastern States Exposition, I'm the HR director, so that kind of piqued my interest that you were looking for that. So I just want to say thank you for hosting this, because I had reached out with one question to Heather, which she answered very quickly. Thank you. And then it answered others that had come up for me.
Yeah, thank you for bringing up the human resources thing, because I think that Brenda, you may know better because you were the previous nominating chair. Since I've been on here, I don't think we've had a human resource like person or specialist. And I know as a tiny museum director, like I'm constantly at sea on those kinds of issues. So yeah, I'm glad that we are trying to get better about articulating it, and certainly anybody with those kinds of special skills would be an asset.
You're not a tiny museum director.
No, sorry, my museum is tiny. I am full scale.
Full scale. I just wanted to add, going back to, why it's great to be on the NEMA board, is that museums have a lot of issues that they are facing that are both externally applied. They have external sources and also internal sources. And so museums really need to change. And if they don't change, they probably won't last that long. And I'm really interested in being part of thinking about how to help museums change. And I can't do that alone. And NEMA is a kind of group of people who are good at thinking out loud with, and NEMA as an organization can actually help its member organizations cope with some of the issues that are out there in the world and issues that will come. And so I find that very gratifying, but it's also gratifying to do it as a community, as a group of people.
That's well said. Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? I really appreciate people taking the time and thinking about it and thinking about NEMA. It's a lot. It's great to do. Okay, so I would say we can wind it up, but if anyone has any other questions, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to have a chat with you, and I'm sure some of us here too. And take a look at that application, read more about NEMA. And I know many of you are already very involved, but it'll be good to see you at other NEMA events. Thanks you very much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you all for having me.
Thank you.